In this video, I'm going to show you what's in our glaze room and how to work in here. Other videos will talk about glazing and the clay mixer. We need to minimize how much glaze material goes down this drain, in part because it goes back into the watershed eventually. It goes through the wastewater treatment plant and then the Zumbro River and then the Mississippi River. For that reason, we really don't have toxic materials in our glazes. This is our Eyewash. In the unlikely event that you splashed glaze in your eye or got clay in your eye somehow, you would come here and step on the pedal and put your face right in there, get your eye washed out. The glazes aren't toxic, but they are ground up rock and the material is abrasive. So you'd want to wash the abrasive out of your eye. And this is what it looks like when it's on. Water's gonna go every place, and that's expected. We mix all of our glazes in this studio from raw materials. The bins under the table contain basically ground up rocks, and most of them are white or off-white, depending on whether they have any iron in them or not. In the first 4 bins are the base materials that are in basically all the glazes in the studio, and colorants and chemicals that we use in smaller amounts are in buckets on the shelf. The bins under the table contain the materials that we use in large amounts in the glazes. They're basically ground up rocks. In their raw form, they're not toxic. It's the dust of the materials that we need to be cautious with. It's very finely ground rock. At stoneware temperatures, fired in reduction, we have a range of mostly earthy, muted colors, very typical for this style of firing. Many times, it's easier to figure out what kind of color you might want to put on your piece by looking at a pot or looking at a tile, so you don't have to guess. The glaze tiles contain quite a bit of information if you know how to read it. This tile has white slip on one side and bare clay on the other, and you can see that slip masks some of the iron speckling coming through the glaze. This tile says the glaze name as well as how thick the glaze is. So the way the tile was made, glaze was poured and then maybe wait for 15 or 20 seconds and then another layer was poured. So this is one thickness of glaze, double thickness or a little thicker application. And then these are finger wipes, so you can see what the glaze looks like where it's very thin as well. So if you can understand how the tiles were made, you get more information as to what to expect. Sometimes it's easy to tell what a glaze will look like just by looking at a tile. But I think looking at it on something that's finished is a little more relevant. Our glazes respond to texture. These textures were put on this pot by students, and you can see that the glaze varies in color due to both thickness and the way the glaze is caught in the textures during the firing. When you're done glazing, clean up after yourself and don't assume somebody else is going to do it for you. So rinse off any brushes, throw them in, clean off the table, and cover up the glazes. This is important because if the lids are left off, the glazes will evaporate moisture and the thickness of the glaze will change over time.